Hello, I'm Bethany from Bethany Wellness. Thank you for joining me today. Have you ever wondered, what is Chaturanga? Story time. I gotta tell you a story. So I started yoga in about 2008 with some more just gentle yoga flow type of classes. And I don't believe the classes I ever were doing introduced Chaturanga. I think that instructor maybe didn't like it or just avoided it. So by the time I went to get my teacher training in 2013, I had actually never done a Chaturanga or even heard of it. So in my teacher training, the teacher said, now it's time to learn Chaturanga. I was like, Chatu-what? What is this Chaturanga business? So I thought it would be important for us to discuss and go through what is Chaturanga, how do we keep proper form in Chaturanga, and some just tools and tricks to help your body be able to perform it in the most safe manner. Chaturanga is a Sanskrit word. It translates into four-limbed staff pose. And staff referring to your spine, because when we're in Chaturanga, our spine is nice and straight like a staff. Now, Chaturanga is usually used in your yoga classes that are intermediate, so a little more challenging yoga classes, or your yoga flow classes. You're not going to see it in your introduction yoga, like your gentle yoga, your yoga basics, things like that. So it is truly a little bit more of an intermediate pose. So that being said, you'll probably want to avoid Chaturanga if you have issues in your wrists, your shoulders, or your back. I would recommend just avoiding Chaturanga. Or we can talk about starting Chaturanga in a little bit more of a supported way to build up some strength until you feel more comfortable with the strength in your body to do a full Chaturanga. So Chaturanga is composed of 4 yoga poses that flow together to create that Chaturanga. So the first pose is high plank pose, flowing into a low plank pose, then to upward facing dog, then to downward facing dog. And so I will show different ways that we can do the Chaturanga in more of a supported way, more of the intermediate way, and then also to just bypass Chaturanga. And that's perfectly fine if Chaturanga is not in your practice, if it doesn't feel good in your body, if you feel like your form is not the greatest and you want to avoid a risk for injury, I would say to bypass Chaturanga. So let's begin. I will demonstrate the more supported Chaturanga first. So starting in high plank from your knees. Wrists are under shoulders. And we're going to keep the back nice and flat so that there's no arching or dipping. We're keeping that back flat, and your feet are up here for your high plank. So high plank number 1. Number 2, shift forward so that the shoulders come over the fingertips. Exhale as you lower down to low plank, keeping elbows glued to your sides. Release the tops of your feet. Third pose, upward facing dog. Gaze forward. So this is a supported upward facing dog because your knees are on the mat. Curl your toes, exhale into downward facing dog. So that's your supported Chaturanga. I would encourage you to begin there if you've never done a Chaturanga, just to test it out, see how it feels in your body. The next option is the full Chaturanga, starting in high plank. Wrists are under shoulders, very important for that alignment. Press through the palms here, puffing up between your shoulder blades. Gaze is down, back is flat. The next most important part is to come to your tippy toes, and your shoulders will come over those fingertips. Then lower down to low plank, elbows glued by your sides. Release the tops of your feet. Press up, upward facing dog. In this variation, the only thing on the mat is the tops of your feet and your palms. Curl your toes, exhale, downward facing dog. And then finally, last option, if you would like to avoid Chaturanga, starting with high plank. So if your instructor cues Chaturanga, start in high plank. You can stay here for a few breaths to build that strength. Then exhale, downward facing dog. So you've just avoided flowing the 4 poses together, and you're just staying in that high plank to downward facing dog. I hope this was helpful to you. Chaturanga really is a powerful pose. Those 4 poses build a lot of strength in your wrists, your shoulders, your abdominal muscles, and your back. So it's a really awesome pose to build that strength. Feels really kind of neat too when you're flowing it together in a very flowing practice. Play around with it, see how it feels. Once again, starting with your knees if you don't have the strength. Avoiding it altogether and just doing high plank to down dogs. Doing that a lot will build some strength. Just see what's in your body, honor your practice, and I hope this was helpful today. Thank you so much for joining me. Be well.